Welcome to this session dedicated to the role of supervisor in IHL legal clinics. My name is Eleonora Branca. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in international law at Roma University, where I cooperate with the supervision of the Roma IHL legal clinic. The previous session has dealt with the role of students in the legal clinic. In this video lecture, I will offer an overview of the role of supervisor in the IHL legal clinic. I will touch upon four main topics. First, the organization of students' work. Second, the review process of students' outputs. Third, the monitoring of students' well-being. And lastly, the relationship between students and supervisor. Students participating in IHL legal clinic projects are generally required to work in small groups. The responsibility for the creation of groups and the allocation of projects to each working group rests with the clinic's supervisors. The groups should be created by considering students' individual skills and by ensuring the balance in the quality of outputs. If international students participate in the clinic, ensure that students of different nationalities can merge within the working groups. Conducting clinical work in a common foreign language, for example English, may encourage participation on an equal footing. Gender balance within the group should be given due consideration. Once the groups have been created, the projects are assigned by the supervisor to each team. To encourage students' autonomy and professional attitude, the responsibility for the internal distribution of tasks may rest with them within the groups. However, supervisors should continuously monitor the allocation of students' responsibility to prevent imbalances and conflict. If necessary, the supervisor may assign specific tasks to students based on their skills and on the general workload of each group. Since the outset of the IHL legal clinic, supervisors shall provide students with clear instruction on this crucial aspect: the expected outcome of each project, the research and working methodology, and the interim and final deadlines for submitting project results. It could be difficult to establish the exact time frame of a legal clinic from the beginning. The fulfillment of each project may vary significantly, depending on various factors. For example, the complexity and extensiveness of the topic, the student's capacity, and the overall workload both of students and of supervisors. In some cases, this may cause students to feel puzzled about the progress of their clinical work. To address these inner difficulties, it could be helpful to share a tentative timeline with students since the beginning of the legal clinic. These should encompass the time allocated for frontal lectures, the start of the research activities, and of the drafting phase, the average amount of time expected for the review process, and the final deadline to submit the project to external partners. All these aspects would facilitate the review process of students' work, as illustrated in the following point. The work within the IHL legal clinic should be organized to ensure continuous review of students' progress. The supervisors should ensure that students have precise deadlines for submitting their draft outputs. Students are requested to fulfill interim and final deadlines to ensure a proper management of the IHL legal clinic. The deadlines must be reasonable and duly announced to students. The timeline should consider the organizational challenges of teamwork and the students' overload academic commitments, including, for instance, the exam sessions. A double review process is recommended. A tutor and the director could carry out this. The reviews should be sent to students in writing before being discussed in class. To this end, the reviews should be circulating to students at a reasonable time. The supervisors are responsible for directing the class discussion, correcting legal and methodological mistakes, and guiding the legal argumentation. At At the same time, that should ensure the autonomous development of ideas by students and encouraging their creative legal thinking. Supervisors should be aware of the risk of a piecemeal approach in the class because of different projects allocated to each group. Also, within the group, students may tend to focus only on the assigned tasks. Supervisors can counter this risk of fragmentation in several manners. Within each group, they can request students to mutually review their section before the draft submission. Also, all clinical students should be encouraged to participate in the activities of all groups, for example, by attending the project presentations to external partners or during international conferences. Revisions, comments, and criticisms are to be addressed to students in a professional and encouraging manner. Building trust and respect among peers and between students and supervisors is of paramount importance for students' well-being during the clinical work. This brings us to the next point, which concerns monitoring students' well-being in the IHL legal clinic. Clinical legal work should be managed to create a safe and protective environment for students. This maximizes their learning experience and output quality for external partners. Supervisors are responsible for monitoring students' well-being during clinical work. They shall be regularly available for students' consultation in person, via email, and other remote learning tools. Supervisors should be ready to address teamwork challenges and prevent potential conflicts among students. We will now hear from students of IHL legal clinics what could be the best strategies to face the hurdles of teamwork.
What were the main challenges that you faced when working together with other students during the project, and how did you solve that?
Okay, so for the IHL clinic in Bochum, we were a mixed team, so I'm a law student and there were also other law students in the group, but there were also students from a lot of different backgrounds. And so right at the beginning, it was really, I wouldn't say challenging, it was more interesting because you see how students from different backgrounds work in a group, and as interesting as it can be a challenge. But I would say communication is everything. So we just talked about what our strengths are, and so for me, with the law background, I can do the law stuff, and somebody with a literature background can correct our drafts or something. So just giving jobs to the persons who have the strength in this specific field was just one big point of how you can connect just students with a different background into this project. And also, as we had two subgroups in our big group, we exchanged our drafts at the end, so we got a peer review. That was really, really helpful, because after looking at this document for 2 months, you don't see anything anymore. You don't see what maybe doesn't sound quite good or what you can change. You're just over it at some point. So that was really helpful to just exchange that and just see what the other group has as comments or suggestions.
The role of students in cooperating with the IHL Legal Clinics project shall be adequately recognized in the output produced for cooperating partners, including the names of the students involved. Supervisor and tutors will also be included in the acknowledgements. Supervisors should encourage the development of a relationship of respect and trust with the students while ensuring a proper balance between a friendly and professional approach. Let's now hear what students of IHL Legal Clinics say about it.
So how is the relationship with the clinic director and the teaching assistant for you, Emma?
I think
that relationship was also particularly useful for me, as obviously feedback from a senior person and a person in a more advanced stage in their lives and their careers is incredibly valuable information. So receiving obviously sometimes critical information shouldn't be seen as something negative, but as an incredible way to grow and to get better in what we're doing. That's why we're at university. We're here to learn. We're obviously not professionals yet. So obviously having someone guide us to get better is incredibly important.
And would you be able to compare it to other frontal lectures that you've followed?
Yeah, it's obviously a completely different relationship. In the usual lessons that I participate in, you might have the odd question during the lecture, but other than that, you then confront the professor mainly at the exam. So I wouldn't even say that there is that big of a relationship. It's almost incomparable to what the clinic can give you.
Yeah.
In this video lecture, we have discussed the relevant aspects of supervising an IHL legal clinic. These are our main takeaways. Students' work should be well organized from the outset of the legal clinic. Supervisors are responsible for creating the teams of students and allocating the project to each team. Revising students' work is a continuous process during the clinical work. It should be carried out in the form of double review by a tutor and the clinic's director, with professionalism and encouragement. The supervisors are responsible for monitoring students' well-being during the clinical work. Availability and openness to dialogue enable students to rely on a safe and protective environment. The relationship between students and supervisor should be built on trust and respect. Striking a fair balance between a friendly and a professional attitude is the suggested approach for IHL legal clinic supervisors. In the next module, you will hear more about the dynamics of legal clinics through the experience of the IHL legal clinics carried out in the context of the IHL RED project.